Yeah, I've been in the university for a few months now. What as an accomplishing black young man studying a very important course, what are some challenges you have faced?
I think the first challenge, or the most common challenge that pretty much everyone in university comes across, is the pressure to drink, because um, everyone's turned 18, so everyone is legally allowed to drink. But yeah, people just, like, some people just drink for fun. Some people want you to go to a party and drink, or they just want to go to a pub or something and drink. And because you're 18, they say there's no excuse. They also say because you're not at home, so your parents won't know. And but really, it's a thing of, if you stand your ground and say that you don't want to, because you're a Christian. Sometimes people even say, "Oh, I'm a Christian, I still drink," or "Oh, my friend's a Christian and he still drinks." But um, you just have to remember that you're different, and you don't need to um, allow yourself to be peer pressured into something. Because a lot of people actually told me that they respect my ability to not drink or to not smoke or anything like that, because they say it's expensive, and sometimes when they drink, they do things that they shouldn't have done. So they wish they had the ability to not do it. So um, it actually gets you a lot more respect than you would have anticipated. And yeah, people remember you for your ability to reject peer pressure as well.
Wow, that's really eye opening. That's eye opening. I never thought of it that way. But that's a really good one. So, what will you see as the second pressure that young black boys face that you have practically? You could say you have faced it.
Um, it's probably at uni. It's probably girls,
Okay.
because I mean, I personally haven't experienced it much, but it's one. It is again one of the things that kind of everyone goes through, because even if you're not um, doing anything, um, your friends will be like, "Oh, this girl this, or that girl that," and um, it's once again a thing of, um, you don't need to allow yourself to be pressured into it. And there's another thing of, you're not really missing out on anything, to be honest. Like, people will say, "Oh, it's you're missing out by not being in a relationship, or not doing this or doing that." But even like scientific studies will tell you that people, especially our age, usually enjoy their lives more when they're doing their own thing and not really involved in relationships, but instead using their um, youth to enjoy their lives um, by themselves, kind of. And um, you do get a lot of peer pressure from it, but really, if you have the right friends, then no one will actually care. So they won't, like, once you tell them once, really, they won't care, and they'll probably stop bothering you about it.
So this the pressure, is it coming from the girls or from your fellow boys trying to make you, yeah, is it the girls that are pushing themselves on the boys, or do you see black boys, girls pushing themselves on the boys, or boys pushing their friends into doing it?
Sometimes it's both.
Okay.
Um, because girls will sometimes go through the same pressure, I think. So, um, just how a boy's friends would be telling the boy to do certain things, the girl's friends will also tell them to do certain things. And sometimes it's the boy that acts on it, sometimes it's the girl that acts on it. So it goes both ways, really.
Okay. That's really a deep one, to be honest. A deep one. So, in the university, have you seen, especially with reference to black boys, have you seen some of them doing drugs? Is drugs? Do you think drug dealing is rife in the university among our black boys?
I think so. I think especially for black boys, because sometimes, like, I'll be walking across the university and people, for no other, these people will walk past other people and not say anything, but they'll come to me, and because I'm black, they'll be like, "Oh, do you smoke? Do you this? Do you that?" And it's not only me that's had this experience. It's mostly like my black friends. People just assume because you're black that you smoke or do one thing or the other. But it's not only black people. I think that kind of thing happens mostly to black people because people assume that you do one thing or the other.
So there's a stereotype.
Yeah.
When people see black boys, they just assume that they must be into drugs.
Yeah. Or especially if we're in a group and say like we're walking to football or something, people will usually approach you and say, "Oh, do you want to go and smoke, or do you have, even just do you have a lighter?" People won't ask people that they don't expect to have one. So that's part of their assumption that you smoke. Or even not smoking. There's other drugs that other people do. Yeah, there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of drug pressure in uni. But I haven't personally had pressure to do drugs. People are like far more likely to ask you to drink than to do drugs with them. I think you have to, people will ask you if you do it, but they won't ask you if you want to do it.
Okay.
If you do it, then they'll want to do it with you. But if you don't do it, then unless you want to try it, they won't be like, "Oh, you should come and do it with us."
Okay, that's fine. The final question I want to ask you is financial challenges black young people face. Especially, there are some people who are not entitled to uh, grants, unlike foreign students. Do you think the financial pressure leads some black boys into drug to make money?
I think at first most people that I know would rather just get a job or something, um, like part-time work, or but yeah, I do think some people would um, try to go into like drug dealing based on not having that much money. But then again, I do know quite a few people that are like foreign students or didn't get much student loan, but they're not into that kind of stuff.
Okay.
They'd rather just not spend money than go into drug dealing. Maybe it's just because of the area my school is in as well, but it doesn't seem to happen that much.
Oh, fantastic. Now, finally, how do you think we black parents can help our young black boys overcome this peer pressure?
I think you just have to. Um, it's a thing of telling them that rejecting peer pressure um, is something that actually gives you respect. People around you will know that you're someone who knows how to stand by what they say, and people will respect you for it. And um, if you fall into peer pressure, you're likely to do something you would probably regret. But if you reject it, then um, you won't really be missing out on anything. So um, I think it's important to talk about peer pressure because peer pressure, I think people when they're young, especially from like high school, people get used to being peer pressured and they fall into it a lot. So I think parents have to talk to their children about overcoming it and also um, talking about things that people might tell you that you should do in uni because your parents aren't around. Parents should talk about how it can be negative, but then um, it's also a thing of don't be like strict on things that aren't important because then your children will just think, oh, they don't want me to do anything. But if it's like you're strict on things that are bad, then it's like, okay, they're not just saying, oh, don't do anything. They just trying to protect me from things that would be bad for me. Because when you go into uni, you kind of start realizing for yourself the things that are done for your own good, and then when things are just like, oh, they just don't want me to do anything. So I think if you're if parents are strict about things that really just shouldn't be done, rather than like small things, especially if it's small things that the child already knows they shouldn't be doing, but if the parent keeps going over it, then it'll kind of annoy them. But if you go over the important things that they shouldn't do, and keep telling them the consequences of it I think it usually acts as a good deterrent from the child doing those things in uni.
Wow. I know I told you that was the last one, but the last one. um, do you think that your background as a Christian, as a born again Christian, has helped you as a teenager and being in the uni?
I think so, because for me personally, knowing who, especially like who my parents are, being pastors, and um, the expectation they have for me, and also the fact that my actions have um, consequences regarding their reputation. Um, it kind of stops you from doing things that you know would negatively affect them. Like for me, I keep away from like drinking, for example, because I know my parents are pastors, and not only is it bad for me to drink in general, but if I was drinking, then it affects the credibility of my parents, one as pastors and two as parents, because it's one of the things that they've trained me not to do. So I think it does help in the background, and I know a lot of people from uni that, because they come from Christian backgrounds, so they end up like joining churches and having Christian friends. So because of that, they don't really get influenced badly. So I do think it is a helpful thing when you're in university.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
God
Bye.
bless. Goodbye.